Hey, welcome to Breaking the News Plus on this Thursday night, where it's all about women's basketball. My favorite topic, and some of yours as well. And to chat about it, my good friend Andrew Dukowitz. He covers the Lynx and the Wolves for Zone Coverage. We're going to focus on the Lynx. Hey, Andrew, thanks for coming on tonight.
Of course. Always a pleasure. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, first and foremost, thank you for all of the work you've been doing the last 6 months. I can't imagine how difficult it's been at times, but from me and my wife, just thank you so much for all you do. I
appreciate you, Andrew. Well, it's been a long winter. And for us, those of us who care about women's basketball have been pins and needles. If we were even going to have a WNBA season, we get news over the last 24 hours that we will have a season. The players will be rich. That's what a lot of people hoped for. But that does not mean the uncertainty has left the building, especially when it comes to the team that you cover and I follow as a fan, the Minnesota Lynx. So let's talk about that a little bit. A lot of things were on hold as this CBA got negotiated. And one of the big things was no free agent signed a contract. All of their contracts ended last year. And that means a lot of Lynx players are just in the question mark column, right?
Well, as it stands right now, it is just Ola Kosu. They also have the rights for Maya Hirsch and Dorka Juhas, who are both playing overseas. And Dorka, who opted out last year, her kind of contract eligibility got carried over. But other than that, everyone else on the roster is a free agent, which I think there's some breadcrumbs that you can look at. Kayla McBride was at the Wolves game last night, has been in the facility the last couple days, has been in Minnesota for a little while now. I think you can take that as a breadcrumb of she might be back. Fee obviously is still very close to the organization, and my expectation, I guess, as a reporter is that she'll be back, but it's not yet a guarantee. And, you know, Courtney Williams and Natisha Heidemann represented the team at the draft lottery. Cheryl was out visiting them in Unrivaled and at the one-on-one tournaments. So I think it's safe to kind of think, oh, those two might be back, but really, nothing is for certain because they're going to have to work out new contracts with everybody on the roster not named Ola Kosu, who was their top pick last year.
Right. And no disrespect to Ola Kosu, but people want to know about Courtney and T. They want to know about Fee. They want to know about K-Mac. And they want to know about Alana Smith. Do you think all four of those players stay with the Lynx because, I ask that because, of course, we want them, but other people might too and could offer them more money now.
I do think those, you know, if we're going starting lineup, Courtney, K-Mac, Nafisa Collier, Alana Smith, and I also think Natisha Heidemann, I think those five players, if I had to put money on it, I would bet that they will be back. This team had a really special bond that I think is hard to find in sports, and they all have a really good relationship with Cheryl Reeve, the city of Minneapolis, and they've won a ton of games together, which that's not nothing. And I think when you're Cheryl and you're able to make these negotiations with these players, being able to reflect back and kind of pull on some of those heartstrings, say, hey, let's get this back for one more ride. We were so close both years. I think that matters. The other thing I would add is the salary cap is expected to kind of boom up again after this season. It'll be based like the revenue sharing model, from what I understand, is that next season's salary cap, 2027, will be based on the 2026 basketball revenue. So I do think a lot of players are going to just sign one-year deals just to see where the chips may lie next season after all of this TV and kind of new rights money comes in. So those things combined lead me to think that, you know, at least 5 out of the top 6 are going to be back.
And so that leaves some players that a lot of people know too that we haven't mentioned that may not make it, because we have a couple of new teams in the league that will have expansion drafts, and then we have free agency, and then we have the actual draft after the March Madness tournament of college women. So the people we haven't talked about, the big names that I come to mind are Bridget Carlton. She's beloved by fans. And Jessica Shepard.
Yeah, and those are kind of the two names. I would also add Dejanay Carrington, who we traded
forgot
Diamond
about
Miller for at the deadline. Oh, not a problem. I think those are the three that when you're looking at this kind of expansion draft scenario where the Lynx are going to be able to protect 5 or 6 of their free agents, those are kind of the three that would make sense to not protect, right? So you got to protect Fee, K-Mac, Court makes sense, Land, co-defensive player of the year. I think you're probably behooved to protect like a Dorka or an Ola who's on a lesser contract and you don't have to go through the headache of re-signing. And that leaves those three out there and available, which you look at Portland. Sylvia Fowles is an assistant coach over there. She knows Jessica Shepard and BC very well. And you look at Toronto with Sandy Brondello as the head coach and Bridget being from Canada. You could start your franchise worse with like an all-time role player that, you know, this season overseas has really shown that she can be more of a contributor on offense. So it's going to be tough to keep everyone. And I would say out of those three, if the Lynx can maybe keep one of them, I think they'd feel pretty good about it. But keeping all three of them is just going to be a really tough task. But Cheryl's done wonders before.
Yeah, the difference for fans that are watching, they know a big difference is Cheryl is both the general manager and the head coach. That is not the case for most teams. And so Cheryl's really the architect of this team. And Andrew, I think it's an important point that you bring up that we have to keep in mind. You and I covered this team last year and years before, but last year especially and the year before, the last 2 seasons that this core group has played, the team talked about the team. There were no stars on this team. They all wanted to play together. And so I think it is conceivable that we see players from these last 2 years go to Coach Reeve or say publicly on social media, I want to be a Lynx. I'm willing to take, $50,000 less to be a Lynx. I want to do this with this team.
And again, that's the new CBA. I think that gives these players a little bit more freedom to do that. I mean, the veteran minimum next season is going to be more than the max salary slot in every other year of the WNBA's existence. So if you're a Jessica Shepard and you have a really bad taste in your mouth about how last season ended, Fee's injury, Dejanay's injury, just kind of how they got bounced so quickly. What's to say she wouldn't say, I want to come back for one more ride? Same with the Bridget Carleton. She's spoken at length of how Cheryl was kind of the one person that believed in her when BC didn't even believe in herself as much. Is it worth it to take less money and come back for that one more ride? I don't know the answer to that, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was somebody that we hear about saying those exact lines. Maybe it's a Natisha Heidemann, maybe it's a Courtney Williams, but again, those three players that we talked about, it's not inconceivable. And Cheryl, if she has a superpower behind the scenes, is kind of connecting all of these people together, which I don't think you can sell short of.
I think that we would be remiss, especially when it comes to the fans last season, to not bring up, I would put on that list of players that aren't like core designees, very possibly Natisha Heidemann. However, Natisha Heidemann loves this organization, and Natisha Heidemann and Courtney Williams, aka the Studbuds, did something incredible for fans, not just of the Minnesota Lynx, but of the WNBA, and it really kind of necessitates Williams and Heidemann staying together. Now, maybe that's just a fan's view and Cheryl doesn't care about that, but for the Studbuds to really be the Studbuds, they kind of need to be on the same team, in my opinion.
I agree. They kind of joked about it last year that with the internet, anything is possible, but I think they both have a really special bond with Cheryl, too. I mean, for Cheryl to be able to go out after wins and losses and refer to Courtney Williams as Dory from Finding Nemo because of her short-term memory, like, you can't do that if there's some animosity. And with Natisha Heidemann, for her to be able to step into a bench role after being a starter on a championship caliber Connecticut team, re-sign last offseason, and then put together one of her best seasons, I think there's a very good possibility they're both back. And I think Cheryl would love to have them back. You look at kind of the past championship Lynx teams, they've always had good guard depth. So I think that's Again, if I had to put money on it, I think the Studbuds will be back in Minnesota. Too many things make sense for them here.
All right, from your lips to God's ears. Thank you so much, Andrew, on that one. I want to talk about the other thing we haven't talked about. They're all going to free agency. We're trying to get the players on the team, but we also have the number 2 draft pick. Like, we get the second best player in the NCAA, and that's going to be an important pick.
Cheryl Reeve. I'm going to just keep singing her praises. I don't know what to say. I think when she traded that Angel Reese pick 2 years ago, she was widely criticized, and now she might be getting Awa Pham, who is a 19-year-old, just incredible big athlete playing overseas. It might be AZ Fudd from UConn, and it might be Lauren Betts from LA, who the Gophers will probably be running into again next week. Again, it's kind of a luxury of Cheryl's to have this pick, and you think about what makes draft picks successful. Any of these players that get drafted are going to be put into a culture, a system where they don't have to be the best player on a team. They don't really have to go through as many struggles, because they're not going to be relied on like the number 2 overall pick normally is. So if you have AZ Fudd that gets drafted to Minnesota as a KMAC replacement 3 years from now, and she can just grow off the bench, I mean, that's a luxury that not many teams get.
No, I'll take it. I like that. I need some luxury in my life. It's been a long year, Andrew. Last question, and one also top of mind for basketball fans. Fee's foot. The best case scenario, she'd be ready May 1 from what they told us over the winter. Have you heard any rumblings about her health to play basketball?
Just kind of rumor mill stuff. Her surgery that she did have on the ankle that kind of kept her out of Unrivaled, it sounded like that went really well. I haven't been able to confirm yet if she had the second ankle surgery and what her status is on that, just because she's been a busy gal the last couple months. But I haven't heard anything other than she'll be ready by the start of the season. So that's kind of my expectation, is that she'll be ready to go. Fee is one of those people that I think you'd have to chain her off of the basketball court, and especially if she's coming in with a new CBA and a similar team to last year, she's, I think, going to be very motivated to get out there.
And I think it's worth reminding people, this will be the last question for you. You and I were there for the final press conference of the bitter end to last season, and Napheesa Collier changed the game when she called out the WNBA leadership and kind of put the cards out on the table saying, you're going to give us a new CBA that is life-changing. And here we are in March of 2026, and she was right. So she's done the things to literally change the professional basketball landscape for women for a lifetime. And so I can't imagine that she wouldn't be there to lace up.
I completely agree. And from just a labor standpoint, from a WNBA standpoint, the deal seems like the players got pretty much everything they wanted. Obviously, they had to compromise a little bit on the revenue sharing percentage, and it's a 6-year deal, which is, I think, a little longer than maybe some people may have wanted. But again, the minimum salary in the WNBA is going to be $270,000 for rookies and $300,000 for vets, which is in some cases 5 times what rookies and vets got paid last season. You can't speak enough about how monumental this is for women's sports, and also that this was a players union where the players were very involved in these negotiations, which doesn't always happen in kind of sports labor disputes. So hats off to them. I mean, they did a really good job, and I'm just happy we're going to have a season and everyone's getting paid.
Yeah, and for all of those reasons, every box kind of gets checked. No, you're not going to go into a negotiation and get every single thing you want, but neither did the WNBA. If you look at the numbers and you look at the reports of what everybody wanted, they did kind of settle in the middle, and so the players did get the revenue share, which is what they pointed to. You talked about that league minimum of $300 for vets and around $260, $270 for rookies. That includes housing, so they don't have to pay for housing. And so now we're talking about at least things that I think about, and the average salary goes to almost $600,000. Now, that's the kind of money where players don't have to go to Turkey and Istanbul and Russia to play overseas in the off season and wear their bodies down. They can play their season and rehab like other professional athletes do, which could also be a game changer for these women, no pun intended.
Absolutely. I mean, truly, absolutely. It also, you look at the NBA, most guys have their kids in the summer during their off season. WNBA players couldn't really plan for that. It sounds like they're going to get actual paid spousal leave. They have an off season where they aren't forced to go play overseas to just make ends meet. They can now kind of plan their family and trips and do normal things that normal people do. I'll never forget the end of last 2 seasons ago when Unrivaled started and Kayla McBride said, this is the first time I'm going to be able to pass out Halloween candy. Yeah. And it's just, those are things they've had to sacrifice before just to kind of follow the dream. And now all of that work has, in a sense, paid off to where now they can have some normality, which, again, I think that's only going to benefit the game.
Right. And as you pointed out earlier, this is the first year of that 6, maybe almost 7-year deal. And each year, if they prove to make money, if the league makes money, the players can make more money. So the stairs are going up on salary. Andrew Dukowitz, I appreciate you and your coverage of the Lynx and your coverage of the W. We'll be talking a lot more, I think, over the next few months.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks. That's all for Breaking the News Plus on this Thursday night. We'll see you again. Take care.